Hey guys, so I've decided to present on the Roman Colosseum, mainly because I went and saw it when I was 8th grade, 2010, maybe 7th, and I really feel like I wasn't truly able to realize how awesome it was to be there, mainly because I didn't really know anything about it. So, as I was reading up for our chapter quizzes and the Colosseum was mentioned, I realized I still don't know very much about it. So I decided that I wanted to focus on that for my project. Um, so my interest was piqued again, and although I did do a great deal of information regarding all aspects, of the Colosseum, the most in-depth research, primarily due to my interest, I think, turned out to be the different uses of the Colosseum. So you will realize that that is a big chunk of my presentation and my paper. So let's get started. Most people know that the Colosseum, um, where it is in Rome, and it's one of the largest architectural feats of the time, and it's considered one of the greatest work of Roman architecture and engineering. So I also found it interesting that it was not designed by one designer or architect, as we're used to hearing today. Instead, it was, just many different influencers. And a fun fact from the AroundRomeTours.com, the writer Samuel Heenans wrote that the original architect was once thought to be the ancient Roman poet Virgil, but we now know that he actually died long before the Colosseum was conceived. So, for my paper, I actually discussed the structural aspects of the building itself, the many varying uses of the building, and how changes were made to accommodate those uses, and also how it impacted the ancient Romans socially and how the ancient Romans impacted it, vice versa. So the why and the how is actually a pretty short area. I couldn't find very much on it, and a lot of what I did find I kind of leaked into the later PowerPoint slides. But basically, the Colosseum was built by Emperor Vespasian for his successor Titus, which these are their busts. And it only took 10 years to build, beginning about 70 AD and finishing in 80 AD. And this was only possible through the use of 60,000 Jewish slaves. So, structure measurements. Again, according to Heenan, the Colosseum measures 189 meters long and 156 meters wide, with a base area of 24,000 square meters, and is more than 48 meters tall. So the Colosseum has more than 80 entrances and exits to accommodate over 500,000 spectators. 76 of these exits were used by ordinary spectators, and the others for preeminent citizens such as the Roman Emperor and his aides. They were actually labeled with numbers, many of which still stand today, although most have fallen and are kind of in crumbles, but they are still present in the Colosseum, and you can still see them if you do go visit. But yes, they can accommodate over 50,000 spectators. So to kind of put that into perspective for you, there's only 21,000 less than what the new Mercedes-Benz Stadium can hold. So that shows just how advanced this place was, because we all know how impressed we are with that new stadium. So yeah, basically based on some historical evidence discussed by him, it is believed that over 200 bullock carts, 100,000 cubic meters of marble, and 100,000 cubic meters of traverse stone were used in the building of this massive feat. The structure itself is complete with the hypogeum, which is the underground structure, which allowed for passageway for the performers, also had holding cells for animals, and helped aid in the flooding capabilities for the naval battles in the stadium. This two-level subterranean network had 40 vertical shafts, which provided instant access to the arenas for animals as well as scenery. The massive structure was also built, it was a part of the hypogeum as well as the main arena floor, but it was built with 36 trap doors, which allowed for special effects, which prior to this hadn't really been heard of and weren't common outside of this Colosseum. Due to the recent recreations of the massive structure, the Smithsonian Magazine was actually able to determine how the ancient Romans lifted these animals into the Colosseum. A writer for SmithsonianMag.com, Matt Blitz, discusses in his article that Hein Drogen Bestes discovered some patterns, holes, notches, and grooves in the walls while he was studying the hypogeum, and eventually realized that these were a system of capstans and lifts, which were used to transport heavy loads, such as, but definitely not limited to, the large animals used during animal hunts in the Colosseum. So the deterioration of the structure, what we see today, the large amount of damage we can see in the modern visit, is due to earthquakes primarily in 847 AD and 1231 AD. However, the Colosseum had been devastated by many earthquakes over the years, as well as other weather-related problems, but these events are credited with a large amount, which the visitors can see today. So the uses of the Colosseum. So the original plan for it was to increase the popularity of the Flavian dynasty, and it would be a place to stage entertaining acts, such as a show of what Roman engineering techniques look like to the world. So they wanted to use these entertainments to show the world exactly what they could do, what they were capable of. And through the various events, which drenched the floor in blood, were animal hunts, and as well as gladiator fights. And it's estimated that over 500 people have died and over 1 million animals have been killed in the Colosseum alone. Events that took place primarily consisted of animal hunts, reenactments of famous battles, executions, and dramas. For the naval reenactments, the Romans were actually able to flood the Colosseum, as I mentioned earlier, in order to provide their audience with the entertainment of mock naval battles inside. Due to the animal hunts in the Colosseum, the number of lions, jaguars, and tigers around the world actually plummeted, and it is said that from this form of Roman hunting, devastated wildlife in North Africa as well as the entire Mediterranean region. In fact, there was a point where the hippo disappeared from the Nile River and the North African elephant was seemingly wiped off the face of the earth. So, separate from the entertainment aspects, the Colosseum has also been used as a worship space for Christians over the centuries, despite its brutal pagan origins. In fact, prior to the 1870s, a cross was present on the site. However, it was removed in 1926 and replaced by Mussolini in an effort to placate Catholics. So the most common use of the Colosseum, what everyone thinks about when they think of it, is the use of gladiators. So according to an article called History of the Colosseum, the first gladiatorial fight was actually staged in 264 AD and was put on by D. Junius Brutus Pera in order to honor his father who had passed away. These fights were one of the biggest entertainment feats and was considered oftentimes the main event. Often took place in the evening after a long day of other events. But it was not the only event taking place in the massive fishbowl space, per se. And due to the expenses of procuring the gladiators, as well as the animals for animal fights, in fact, gladiator fights went on until about 437 CE, and the animal hunts lasted until 523 CE. Basically, based on the expenses of, as I said, the procuring of the gladiators and the animals, as well as the upkeep of the facility itself. So that was a lot to really manage. So social life, all ancient Romans could enter the Colosseum for free and were entertained and even fed throughout the various shows. Most fights and spectacles lasted all day, so it was an all-day event, morning till dawn. And however, some festivals or games could last up to 100 days. And during these events, the Romans in the audience were obsessed with the gladiators and even admired them, despite their desire for their death. Because of the original intent of the games, which was to offer sacrifice or homage to the gods, the executions which took place here were often through the eating of beasts or burning to go along with mythological deaths in the Roman culture. And from Colosseum.net, that is where I actually researched and heard a lot about the fact that these killings were very intentional, and they wanted it to represent what they believed the gods would want to see. So that's how they carried out their executions in the Colosseum itself. The demise of the Colosseum came about due in some part to actually this public itself. A change in public taste concerning the combats really took a toll on the Colosseum. And according to an article by the History Channel, this and the struggles of the Western Roman Empire were actually the beginning of the end for the Colosseum. So I finished my presentation with a kind of hilarious picture from 2010 of my family and my best friend's family who went with me. And I can look at this picture and know that I had absolutely no idea what I was looking at when I visited the Colosseum. And luckily, I now know exactly what I was looking at and can understand a whole lot more about it than I thought I would. So, thank you for watching.